is van Holstraat.
Hello there. Welcome to this new episode of Mr. Drive Drives. My name is James, and I am your host for today. Nothing new is shown in this episode, except that the always somewhat boastful Mr. Drive shows the results of his newest supercomputer. More about this monster later. As you could probably expect, today we are doing a ride on Vlietkanden Xtreme, the OMSI map that is still under construction. This time a favorite line of Mr. Drive, namely line 24. We drive the line from Waalstad Dampoort NS in the direction of Borgerhout.
Hello.
Before we go any further, let me explain my presence here. In previous episodes, Mr. Drive has used the services of Joey, a fellow AI voice of mine. Joey was fine, but our driver was looking for a more British sound, and here I am. Back to the map now and the line that we are gonna explore. Maybe it's been told before, well, I'm pretty sure. Yet just one more time. The line we are going to drive and a large part of the area we are going to cross is based on The Hague, where Mr. Drive lives. This whole area, everything on the other side of the railway line, comes from another Mr. Drive built but never completed map called Hofstad. This folder was intended as a tribute to Mr. Drive's birthplace. Mr. Drive was born in The Hague, not in Hofstad of course. The first line that Mr. Drive has reproduced is line 24. Previously, Mr. Drive used this bus line daily and mainly knows the section between Kikduin and the center in detail. And yes, especially this part isn't included in the map. The other part of the line, between Central Station and Mariahove, has been fully incorporated into the map. When the construction of Vlietkanden Xtreme started, Mr. Drive imported the Hofstad map into the existing Vlietkanden map by transferring everything tile by tile and renumbering it. Real monk work. This inserted piece of map has now become an important part of Waalstad. Several lines are now running in this part of Waalstad, and even, as we speak, an extension is being built on the east side. There will certainly be videos about that in the future, which I, hopefully, can provide with my velvet voice. So that's the part we're going to get into today. First, we take a piece of Dampoort and then we push on to the Hague region, or as it is called on Stadsregio Vlietkanden Xtreme, Waalstad Vesting.
De volgende halte is Lichtenbergplaats.
As said, we are now driving in Dampoort, an older neighborhood in Waalstad. Here too, a Dutch city is the basis for the structure of this part of the map.
Hi.
The name Waalstad actually gives it away. This piece is based on the city center of Nijmegen, one of Mr. Drive's favorite cities. Nijmegen is nicknamed Havana on the Wall, which is the obvious basis for the name Waalstad. Dampoort, the district name that is used for this part, comes from Ghent. There you have a district that bears that name, and there is also a train station with that name. Ghent is also on Mr. Drive's list of cities he likes to visit. As you can conclude, on Stadsregio Vlietkanden Xtreme you will come across all kinds of combinations that are not possible in everyday life. For people who are familiar with Nijmegen and the public transport there, the upcoming stops will sound familiar. They have been taken over from the center of Nijmegen. At the traffic lights in the distance, we will soon turn left. In the original Euregio, also a Mr. Drive map, planned by Mr. Drive, the intention was to build the wall bridge further on and add the city districts and villages beyond it. However, Euregio was never properly put on the map and suffered the same fate of the already mentioned Hofstad map at an earlier stage. The map has been converted to Stadsregio Vlietkanden. It is a trick that Mr. Drive often pulls because the Gansberg map has now been processed in the Vlietberg section. Gansberg was a German map loosely based on Bonn. The center of this had already been created by Mr. Drive and now serves as the station area in Vlietberg. It seems that Mr. Drive is always trying something new, but then eventually comes back to Vlietberg. The work done on those other projects is then, as a good practice, applied to the magnus opus of Mr. Drive. Thanks to all these additions, Stadsregio Vlietkanden Xtreme has lived up to its name. An extremely large map that is only surpassed in terms of reception by Ruhr, a product of Kevin Nitschmann. Ruhr is quantitatively larger, but not in terms of quality. On Vlietkanden there are many different regions that all look different. On Ruhr you don't know where you are after a 15-minute drive. Everything looks alike. We're not here to bash Mr. Nitschmann, of course. Much can be said about the quality of his work, but never forget that purchasing his projects is always a voluntary choice. Everyone is free to make what he or she wants to make, and everyone is free to buy it or not. An extremely large folder with a lot of diversity demands a few things from your PC. And that is the main topic for today. While negotiating the bumpy roads of Damport, it's time to divert our attention to the performance. In the top left corner of the screen you can see the frame rates. This figure is 90% above 40. Often also in their 50s, and occasionally more than 90 frame rates are achieved. This with settings that are well above the average of what was normal for Mr. Drive. The numbers of unscheduled AI and pedestrians are way higher, and also sunglow is turned on. Nevertheless, Mr. Drive achieves frame rates and smooth performance that many will envy. To achieve this you need a strong PC and let go of some myths about OMSI. So what are the myths? First, the use of CPU cores. According to insiders, OMSI can address a maximum of 2 cores. Mr. Drive has noticed that OMSI is perfectly capable of using multiple cores and addressing them to the maximum level. On average, OMSI uses 8 of the 16 available cores and gets 5.4 GHz per core from the CPU. The other myth, more expensive or faster GPUs wouldn't affect performance. This is also nonsense because OMSI mainly appeals to the memory and the clock speed of the GPU to almost the maximum level. Mr. Drive had observed this before, and on the basis of this he decided to have a PC put together that can deliver super performance here. So what is in that MIDI tower of Mr. Drive's rig? To start with, a 13th generation i7 processor with 16 cores and 12 threads. A booster up to 5.4 GHz per core. That booster is used by OMSI on average over 8 cores. The CPU in question is the i7-13700KF. Second, a good graphic card. The choice fell on the MSI GeForce RTX 3060 Ti Ventus because of the available memory, the clock speed and the type of memory. Third, the RAM. This is a DDR5 with the highest processing time available. Finally, the storage media. The PC is equipped with the fastest read and write speed M.2 SSDs. The results are impressive. This new machine of course runs on Windows 11 and, also very remarkable, it does not use the CFF Explorer. Nevertheless, there is no problem with memory usage. The problem remains the sound and its processing. You can see it on the video when the bus rattles a lot. This PC has a Motu external sound card, and they are the best choice for both gaming and sound editing with a very low latency and fast processing time. To buy a PC of this quality you have to take a deep dive into your bank account. These components are not cheap. But here it is clear that this investment is worth it and that quality proves itself. In the meantime, we have almost made a full circle with line 24 and we are a stone's throw from the place where we started the ride. But rest assured, we're not going back. From here we turn right and drive into the new area. Not yet the recreated version of The Hague, but more of a prelude to what is to come. We actually drive into a kind of transition area that still contains many influences from Nijmegen here. In a moment we will turn left, and then we will enter an area that is completely self-contained and designed by Mr. Drive. Free from any influence that can be found on many parts of the map. In an earlier version the OMSI world came to an end here a little further on and you could, what they were afraid of in the Middle Ages, simply fall off the earth. Well, no matter how hard Columbus tried, he couldn't discover a round OMSI world. Despite all reality, the OMSI world remains flat. Even worse, to make OMSI manageable you better keep it as flat as possible. Height differences are no fun in OMSI and always the basis for a lot of frustration. Mr. Drive can relate to that. Speaking of frustration, did I see a missing traffic light there? Building an OMSI card is really fun and satisfying, but of course it also has aspects that appeal to the imagination less. Examples of this are the installation of traffic lights, lampposts, and traffic signs. These are activities that require many actions and are frustratingly slow. But hey, they're part of making a map, so it's part of the job and a nice job for a rainy Sunday afternoon. Still better than going to church, right? The problem with a map that has gotten out of hand like Stadsregio Vlietkanden Xtreme is that it is becoming increasingly difficult to oversee the situation. Once something is forgotten and you don't get close to it anymore, it may happen that you only find out versions later. That is also a regularly recurring practice in map construction. Sometimes errors are discovered in areas that have not been developed for a long time and they are errors from the distant past. So it is actually important to complete matters per area as much as possible. But sometimes you are just too impatient and think you can finish such details later. It will not really surprise anyone that in such cases there will be a postponement. Another nice shitty job is editing stop signs. You have to fill in several fields. It would be nice if the bus stop posts could get their information from the bus stop cubes. I think this is technically possible, but it requires a script that has to be loaded frequently and has a negative effect on performance. It's always about the balance. Performance is something you have to constantly think about when you are building. No overkill, just what is necessary and above all not too diverse AI. Oh yes, AI. An item that some mortals and other scientists believe threatens the world. When I look at OMSI's AI, I only see strange behavior, but few threats. As an AI voice I have to be a bit careful what I say. I think Mr. Drive and I agree that AI is going to be very important in the future. If you carefully study and map out the application possibilities, the danger will not be too bad and you can only benefit from it. Think of all those hand jobs, no sexual intention here, that you can outsource to AI. No more dirty work for people. You will of course get more unemployed because not everyone is suitable for a HBO position. The government should then start thinking about a basic income to provide an income for people for whom there really is no longer any work. Oh dear, while driving we entered the realm of politics. A subject that is often better avoided. On the other hand, it is interesting to meditate on the times to come. The world is changing, and changing fast. We will have to adapt to that. I just feel that you physical beings still don't quite know how. Not that I know, but look, I'm AI and have an off button. It really is that simple. We turn right here and with that we drive, as it were, into the Hague areas. We start with a piece of Laan van Meerdervoort. Also the longest street in the real The Hague. Here we only do a small part of it. A disclaimer, the contours are from The Hague, the details are not. But I'll point that out when we're near such a difference. A striking difference, as the connoisseurs have probably already noticed, is the lack of trams and tram rails. Furthermore, this remake is a bit taken out of context. But we are approaching Driesmanplein, which is known in The Hague as Carnageplein. We must miss the famous Metropole cinema, but that has also been the case in The Hague for years.
Dag beste man.
We drive onto the last and narrower part of the Laan van Meerdervoort. To the right of this, but not recreated, is the Naval Heroes neighborhood. On the left is the Peace Palace, at least in the real world. Here on Omsi is the Palace of Justice on this famous spot. At the traffic lights further on we cross the Anna Palenastrat, and not far beyond that the Laan van Meerdervoort changes almost unnoticed into the Javastraat. The is on the edge of the actual center of The Hague. Here on Vlietkanden it is the edge of Waalstad Fortress. The area here mainly consists of large and especially expensive houses, often involved by all kinds of offices of real estate agents, lawyers, financial advisors, banks, and also matters of which we had better not know what is going on there. Some of the houses here are privately owned and some have been in the family for years. If you want to buy such a property now, you have to dig deep into your pockets.
Dag conducteur.
A little further on, in the real The Hague, is the old City Hall of The Hague. Mr. Drive is a municipal official and works at the new City Hall in the middle of the center. We will visit that later. The Hague has had 4 city halls. The first was on the Groenmarkt. We don't pass that, so it simply doesn't exist here. The second was here on the Javastraat at the traffic lights further on, where we will turn right in a moment. The third town hall was actually behind this town hall on Javastraat, and the fourth and current town hall is right in the center on the Espui. We are now heading straight for the center. First along Square 1813, then through the Parkstraat, over the Nuterdijk, and then onto the Spui. I'll leave you alone for now so you can take a good look at where we're all driving by. I will come back to you at the Spui.
De volgende halte is Mauritskaan.
Hallo. Hallo.
Hallo. Ook goedemorgen. 1 koffie te weinig?
De volgende halte is Kneuterdijk.
We are now approaching the epicenter of politics in the Netherlands, also called the largest madhouse in the country. The building on the left houses our parliament and the Ministry of General Affairs. It is called the Binnenhof and is the real old heart of The Hague and a particularly picturesque part of this city, especially together with the adjacent Hofviver. This is the place to be, because this is where the decisions are made. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. Self-interest first, national interest second. It's all about ego. But this aside, we should not forget that this is a damn beautiful part of The Hague, a fact that is unfortunately less apparent here on Vlietkanden. Maybe in later versions, you never know with Mr. Drive, he can sometimes make strange decisions. We then made our way across the Spuy. The modern building a little further on the left on the corner of the street is a remake of our current second-room building. The stone textures are based on a close-up photo of the real thing. The street there is called Lange Poten, has nothing to do with the height of homosexual men, and is one of the important shopping streets in the Hofstad. The green square next to the Parliament building is the Hofweg, and markets are held there nowadays, but not right now.
Hallo.
Right now, in the real world, this entire complex is shut down for major renovations that will last until about 2030. As it concerns a project of the Dutch real estate company, this can easily become 2040. Do you see the building with the blue and white facade on the left? This is the new City Hall of The Hague and has been in use since 1995. This is also where our map builder, driver, and AI voice programmer do his daily work. Although the latter is relatively, cause Mr. Drive mainly works at home. About this building, it's designed by Richard Meyer and nicknamed Ice Palace. 3,000 civil servants work and meet here, and the city is also governed from here by a municipal council that has known turbulent times. This building also houses the main office of the library and the municipal archives. We continue on the Spuy, past the new Amore, and then past the Mercure Hotel. Amore is rather vaguely portrayed on Vlietkanden, and the Mercure Hotel makes your frame rates shudder. Amore is home to the Residency Orchestra, the National Dance Theatre, the Art Academy, and the Royal Conservatory. You could say a building with a high artistic content. Mr. Drive was close to doing his day job there. Ended up second instead of first, but it was really close. But that's a whole different story. We will turn left here in a moment and head towards Station Zuid. More on that later. Now time for some rest and the opportunity to look around from the driver's perspective. Back to the performance of this PC. This area is one of the toughest areas on the map. This is due to the ramps, tunnels, and height differences, as well as the reasonably dense buildings and the multi-lane roads. But as you can see, the frame rates don't really fall back to a low level and stay around 50. The place where we are now is based on the neighborhood around Central Station in The Hague, with a residential area on one side and various ministries on the other. Soon we will arrive at Station Zuid, which was based in New Den Haag Central. But Joey already talked about that at length in another video. So I'll step aside again and give you time to look around.
De volgende halte is Station Zuid.
Yep. We arrived at South Station. Not Amsterdam South Station, which looks very different, but Waalstad. This bus station where we are now also has all those weird twists and turns that the drivers have to go through. Who came up with that? A number of lines depart from this platform in Waalstad. Of course line 24, which is passing through here. But also line 20 to Finkendal Nijenro de Plein. A line that goes through a completely new area, which is partly based on Loosduinen, a district of The Hague. Lines 22 and 32 have their terminus here. Line 22 goes from here to Waalstad Damput and from there to Durenburg NS. Line 32 goes via Westdalewood to Vlietberg. All nice lines to drive, but unfortunately,
De
you have to
volgende
wait a
halte
while.
is Station Zuid.
From this station, we will soon leave in the direction of Borgerhout through the Biswiddenhout district and what is in the real world called Mariahove. What those neighborhoods are now called on Vlietlanden is actually not yet known. In any case, the stop names are taken from the real line 24. To be honest, the rest of the area we are going to cross is not very spectacular.
Hallo.
Residential areas for the
Dag.
lower middle
Doei,
class,
vandaag.
standard houses with little imagination and, above all, many apartment buildings that do not really appeal to the imagination. Anyway, try to get out of here first. That getting away, I won't call an escape, we do via the Prince Bernhard Viaduct and then over the Prince Claus Laan. It won't get more royal than this. Although we later cross a Princess Marianne Avenue. That is also the place where I will wake up again.
De volgende halte is Station Zuid. De volgende halte is Prins Clauslaan. De volgende halte is Koningin Marialaan. De volgende halte is Laan van Nieuw Oost-Indië.
Hallo.
Heb je al een horloge of zo? Want volgens mij ben je veel te laat. Ik weet niet, was het gezellig of zo bij het begin?
De volgende halte is
Spaarwaterstraat. What does that mean? No idea about that. By the way, it seems that we are behind schedule given the complaining passengers. Well, they can just walk. We have now made quite a bit of progress in the neighborhood that is not called Biswiddenhout. There are also quite a few footsteps of Mr. Drive in this area, because a long time ago he was here on the MMO. MMO stands for Secondary Middle Class Education. Quite a failed school career, by the way. At that time it was not yet known that Mr. Drive was gifted with an IQ of 140. It was not until much later in life that he found out and now understands why he was so bored in those schools. But again, this aside. We continue on this, again, somewhat boring road towards Borgerhout. Along the way we encounter exciting things such as a swimming pool, a roundabout, a theatre, a park, and so on. There is not much to tell about it, so I will leave you alone again in a moment with the driver and some quiet Zen music. Although, maybe I can tell you something about the follow-up of this map. With all that beauty ahead of you, you will of course want to drive through these streets yourself someday. Drive, not race. But that will
De
take a
volgende
while.
halte is de
As mentioned
Eersplein.
earlier, a new area is now being built. It is expected to be ready around September. After that, all areas or all tiles must be checked. At the moment the map consists of 1300 plus tiles. So that is certainly no sinecure. In addition, Mr. Drive's busy job at the municipality also demands a lot of time. He used to have hours a day for OMSI. Now that's a few hours during the week and a little more
Dat
on the
rijdt
weekend.
alsof de duivel hem op de
It
hielen
is
zit.
therefore expected
Je
that
lijkt
this
wel
map will not
koffievuil.
be revealed to the public until early 2024. That is more than a year after the first set release date, and even this date is not certain. What is certain is that Stadsregio Vlietkanden will see the light of day sooner than the full version of, what's that called again? Oh yes, Lotus. Does Lotus still exist at all, or has Janine given birth to a child and Marcel now has to watch the little ones?
Hey,
You do not
gozer.
know. Bah, you shouldn't think that Janine also fucks. Oh gee, I have to watch my language a bit or this video won't make it through the ballot committee. Uncleaned language, YouTube is not really about that. Out of protection for the kids, while they're just watching hard porn on dad's phone. But yes, That's paid and as long as that phone doesn't stick and mom doesn't know. Back to Stadsregio Vlietkanden Xtreme. We can therefore safely say that it will still be under construction in the coming months. So more patience. You can immediately save for a good PC. Because rest assured, you will need it when this monster map is finished. Last word about the buses on the map. The bus we drive is not included, the repaint you see is. It was created by Jokovation and is made available by him. This bus is a great bus, but if you still want a more performance-friendly vehicle, there is an alternative AI list with the Aiken-Benz in Arnet livery. It comes with an extra installer because it also adjusts the static buses to the Arnet repaint. For the rest you can of course let it drive around what you want as on the map. But beware, too much variety can overwhelm your performance. See you later.
De volgende halte is Rijgersbergenweg.
Hey, gozer!
U bent altijd te laat.
Veel te laat.
De volgende halte is Barnsteenhorst.
Yes, you're right. On the Vlietberg part of the map there is a Barnsteenplein. The inspiration comes from the same source.
De volgende halte is Savierhorst.
We have just turned onto the Hofwijklaan and that means that we are not far from the final
De volgende
destination.
halte is het
That's a
kleine
good thing
Loop.
because I'm pretty much out of conversation. A lot has been said about the map in the many videos over the years, I have nothing to add. There is no new information unless we have to talk about the business. After all, that is the simulator that is seen as the successor to OMSI. There is definitely potential there, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. Especially in the physical aspects of the buses. They feel like you're driving around with a toy car and the layout and operation are not the best if you use TrackIR. Nothing is perfect and it seems that TML is still busy with development. Let's see what they come up with. We're about to end this episode here, and Mr. Drive assured me that there's not a big chance of a new video in the near future. If one comes, then he will talk it out himself, or he will just do a silent video. So it looks like this has been a real VSOP for me. VSOP stands for Very Special One-Time Only Performance.
De volgende halte
When
is
it comes to cognac,
Margaretha
the meaning
Land.
is very different, by the way. The moment of saying goodbye is getting closer and closer. That's not a difficult moment, because although you know me a bit now, I don't know you at all, and anyway these videos don't really have a lot of viewers. So it won't be a multiple farewell. You will also hardly know the person behind Mr. Drive, Renee de Hilster. Funnily enough, Mr. Drive has never met a fellow OMSIite in person. Not surprising, of course, because it is and remains a virtual world. Although he did have that chance. There was a time when a French map builder wanted to travel to the Netherlands to kill Mr. Drive. Death threats in the OMSI world. Of course it shouldn't get any crazier. Let's recap the ride. The goal was to do a performance test with the new PC. We succeeded. Good frame rates and everything ran smoothly. You do need an i7-13700KF CPU, Central Processing Unit, for that. A good GPU, Graphic Processing Unit, is also indispensable. This PC contains a GeForce RTX 3060 Ti versus MSI. I will spare you the rest because that is of secondary importance. We drove line 24 from station Waalstad Dampoort to Borgerhout Egenplein. We did that in the Advent C2 with a Jokovation repaint on it. The map is Stadsregio Vlietkanden Xtreme. We drove
De
in
volgende
Waalstad,
halte
the
is
second big city on the
Borgerhout
map.
Egenplein.
My name is James,
Dit
one
is
of the English
tevens de
voices of
eindhalte
Revoicer.
van deze lijn.
I hope my voice
U
has been
wordt
experienced
vriendelijk
as
verzocht
pleasant.
het voertuig te verlaten.
In fact, I am not responsible for
Denk
the text I
daarbij aan uw
pronounce.
bagage en vergeet
The writer
niet
of the
om uit
texts
te
can
checken.
hide behind me as the narrator. This virtual stuff remains a strange world. Now I'm really through it. Greetings to Manfred. Ciao.